Back from the physio, so I just had time to grab the mask.
Space, the final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its 5-year mission, to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilization, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
Greetings, salutations, and welcome to Retrek. I'm Captain Jim. With me, of course, are Admiral Elliot.
Hi there.
And Dr. Squee.
Dragon!
And we're here this week to talk about the finale of Lower Decks Season 4, Old Friends, New Planets, and the TNG episode, The Wounded, which... yeah, we found some links. We did find some links.
There was a lot of really obvious links, but we've done them.
We've done them all. That's the problem.
And honestly, this one fits better than I was honest yesterday, and I was working on the tenuous link, which was a little bit of the captain goes rogue in that, a bit like kind of almost said Paris, but Locarno, of course. Locarno goes the way Locarno goes rogue. But then I was thinking, then I said, it's like, or we could do one where like there's someone who guest appears who then becomes a regular. I was trying to think of one where someone had just been in one episode, and then Jim correctly pointed out, it's like, well, Mark
Alemo.
That guy, Mark, as he insists I call him, basically plays Proto Ducat in this, and it's like, even though he also plays Mark Twain and some other characters, this has to be the antecedents of the character he went on to play. So it's kind of, so there's a couple of kind of actually not too bad.
Yeah,
it's a bit more obvious than you'd think at the first mention.
We worked backwards from the end point, but we got there. So it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, I mean, my subconscious knew the other link.
Like the obvious choice was The Wharf of Card, but we've done the movies.
We have.
Yeah, I mean, I thought there was a few. I mean, obviously, Lower Decks. There's the last week we literally did the one Locarno episode.
Well, that's it. We've done Lower Decks and we've done the First Duty, so you can't tie into them. I mean, we've done the Binary episodes.
Of course, we couldn't wait after the first episode with Locarno back to do the Locarno episode. Well, but I mean, if anything, this episode will work even better for it. But we weren't going to sit on that.
We were not to know.
And also now, having watched it in advance, which hopefully everyone who watches this does, it kind of sets you up for this part 2, which literally goes into the events preceding that episode.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's start there then, because, that's great. We get an immediate flashback, and we get to meet Josh. Poor old Josh.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Little did he know, but he didn't have long for this world at that point, but we finally get to meet him.
I could have kicked myself because I literally thought last week, this is how much of a dumbass I am. It's like, oh, shame we never got to see Mariner with that, those people. I literally thought that, not thinking it's a fucking cartoon. It's the easiest thing in the world to do a flashback to that and make it look great. Just, I'm a dumbass. And I loved Will Wheaton's young Wesley Crusher voice.
That was good.
Hello! It sounded like a mix between Wesley Crusher, everyone's impression of Wesley Crusher, and the young guy from The Simpsons. The guy who's always the apprentice in something. Yeah. Perfect.
And it was good because it was that. You could believe it was Wesley, but it was Wesley dialed up a little bit with the benefit of the fact that it's in a cartoon and it's playing it for laughs, and so you get Wesley going, oh, I'm not so sure about this starburst thing, and it's still leaning into the cheesiness of it a little bit. But I thought it was great. And like you said, it was great to see Mariner actually mingling with...
And Mariner as the cadet, while she was all hopeful and wanted to really progress through Starfleet.
Yeah.
And it's lovely because she was like, it was the personality of Boimler, but with the mannerisms.
Yeah.
They still had the classic Mariner mannerisms. They didn't completely change her character, which I thought worked really well, because a lot of the time they would have made her more nervous and everything. But I love the fact that she's still bubbly. She's just, with enthusiasm, was supposed to snark.
Yeah, and I liked what they did with Sito. That you have the other characters going, oh, here's your third wheel, Sito. Oh, here's she. And they're very dismissive of Mariner, and then they could have easily lent into having Sito be, oh no, she's a pain in the ass, and Sito just humouring her. But Sito genuinely likes Mariner, and I thought that that was just a nice touch. They didn't have to do that. It'd have been so easy to go the other way and the joke be everyone hates her. But it gave more.
It gave more. It made it seem more poignant how Mariner had felt about Sato dying.
Exactly.
And also it sort of chimes with when we see Sato in her last chronological event, which she's in, when where she dies. I just thought it was really nice. And it's also, you sort of imagined it, but you never saw these people with any hope or joy in their lives. It was all about Sato a little bit, because you see it with a new group of friends. But the rest of them, it was all bleak. They were all kind of like, it was just so sullen because of what had happened. Whereas it's nice to see what they were like, and it's like, oh, one day Locarno was just a guy who's hanging out with his friend. He was an egomaniac, but it's like, so
we even pointed out to him that people will remember you.
Yeah,
the legends.
And it was just so nice. It adds even more texture to that episode.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to watch these back to back, and that watch this two parts, then go back to First Duty.
Yes, it would. And even though we're getting this nice sort of cutesy scene, there's a great little bit of sort of a play on language where they talk about xenohistory. And Mariner says, "Oh, that's going to be the history of the Zindi. I can't wait to study them." And it's just a nice little throwaway joke. And I only picked up on it the second time because
I loved it.
Dialogue's that quick.
Am I going to like them? I bet I'm going to like them.
And also,
it's knife through the earth.
It's one of them that, from a meta sort of perspective, blags your head a little bit, because if this scene had been filmed in real life before the First Duty, the Zindi hadn't been invented yet.
Well, I was more thinking it's like she's going, well, I like them. It's like, sorry, you didn't hear about the species which cut a knife through
but they end up being friends, don't they? That's what Daniels predicted.
I'm saying, though, I still think about 20 years. Sorry, this is about, 80, 100 years, whatever. We'll say 100 years.
This is about 200 years. This is about 208. This is about 207.
Yeah.
Sorry, is the difference between the original series?
There's about 100 years between Enterprise and original series.
Is there? I didn't know that was that large.
And then there's about another 80 years.
Yeah, I know, because it's always 75 for Next Generation. Yeah.
So what was going on in
so long?
Who were the baddies in the real world in 1823? So it'd be like
me on the Spaniards.
There's
no reason for that.
It'd be like probably an American.
No, to be fair, it's probably the French at that period.
Yeah, or us, the British.
Yeah. Actually, that's a good point.
Yeah, it'd be like an American saying, "Oh, the British! I can't wait to learn all about them."
But that's right. Do we all? I don't remember who we were at war with 200 years ago.
Yeah, mind you, like Jim indicates there, it was pretty much us waging war or just basically conquering other countries.
Yeah, pretty much everyone, probably. Although, I think you're probably on a safe bet with the French. So
most countries can have a genuine claim. America's actually got the weakest claim because they always say it that they were, or it's always taught they were fleeing persecution. They were actually going there because they wanted to persecute people who didn't follow their religion.
Well,
so the
exactly.
People who left,
yeah.
And then there was a bit of shit over tea, which might have been partly our fault. But
so if anyone who's listening wants to Google who were we at war with in 1823, we will nail this reference finally.
It'll be just then like a list keeps on scrolling down.
Yeah. Sorry, this is going wildly off topic, but I'm sure there was a thing in QI, and it's something like Cornwall is still technically at war with Germany or something. There's a really weird.
It was Berwick was at war with Russia for.
That's it.
For about 150 years or something stupid like that, because when we went to war with them, it was because Berwick's on the border, it was like England, Scotland, Wales, Ireland, and Berwick-on-Tweed. And when the peace treaty was signed, it was just England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales.
Yeah.
So Berwick theoretically was still at war.
And what you're thinking of, Jim, is the time when a German went to Cornwall and goes, these pasties, very overrated. They've never been on good terms since.
No, that's it. They're just not grateful of pasties, aren't the
You
Germans?
don't insult
Anyway,
their pasties.
no, you do
Germans.
not. If Benedict's listening, Benedict's not German, but he speaks German. So let us know how the Germans feel about pasties, Benedict, if you're listening.
Although, just mind your language when you do. Just saying.
Yeah. So back to the present then, and we've got Mariner confronting Locarno, and he's got his little logo for his independent fleet, and it's the Cobalt Starburst.
Yeah.
It's the formation of the ships, which I just thought was a really nice little touch.
And isn't it just great? Because, like, I mean, until now, I'd never really like. I knew they'd been showing us the explosions from the point of view of the lower decks, but it didn't necessarily feel to me anyway that it necessarily had to be something about lower decks. So to have that be the focal point was just genius. Like, I never saw that particularly coming.
The only one where we got more of it was the Ferengi one, because we found out that there was a traitor there, but now it's sort of...
But that's sort of like just typical Ferengi. And the one with the Ferengi, we were made to look as if it looked like he'd been double-crossed.
Yes,
which
exactly.
is just Ferengi. You don't think it's a lower decks thing. You think it's a Ferengi thing.
And it's not a retcon. It's just that we weren't given all the information that there was betrayal. I mean, there was a bit about betrayal with the Romulans, but that's the Romulans. So
exactly. They used the trait which we know against us, so we wouldn't suspect it was a lower decks connection.
And Locarno is very much this sort of archetypal character that you get, where it's a jock in high school who can let it go, like in that episode of Friends where Monica dates the old jock from high school, and it turns out that he's not changed at all. He still hangs out with all the same lads, and he's got the same motorbike, and he just acts exactly the same. He still wears his varsity jacket, and I feel like Locarno is that, like he was part of Nova Squadron, and now he wants a Nova fleet. You know, he's not grown up in that respect.
I mean, it's a good point, but I don't think anyone's seen that episode of Friends. Now, Jerry O'Connell in Can't Hardly Wait. Now, that's what you're thinking.
Much more famous, of course.
Yeah, much better known. He's the American football... No, I don't even know why I'm trying to explain it. Everyone knows that. Deep cuts Jerry O'Connell for you there.
Well, and good link, because Jerry O'Connell.
Seriously, he's the American football player. He's at this party, and like this guy goes like, "What are you of the legend?" He goes, "Yeah, it was great until I then left school, and just no one gave a shit anymore." Yeah, like he'd been the big I am at school. Yeah, it was nice. And you got the younger version of him there at the party.
Oh, Facebook user says the Burmese War.
But with a question mark, that's almost
with a question mark.
Sure.
We may have been at war with Burma.
Does it?
Burmese.
We did have wars with Burma, but
it doesn't matter because they're all dead. Sylvester Stallone killed every single one of them in Rambo 4. There was no one left in that country by the end of that, where he's just on thinking. It's about 20 minutes of him just on Gatling gun.
Well, just prior to that, they had a little war with Birmingham. It was the Brummies versus the Bernese.
That'd be good. Yeah, that'd have been a good one. That would explain why Burma got really rough. Anyway. No, we love Birmingham. We love it. We like attending events in Birmingham. Don't ban us from the NEC or the attached Hilton, please.
And we didn't say it. That's all I'm saying. It was Jim. It was all Jim. It wasn't me.
It was. Yeah, you definitely. That's exactly the kind of linguistic joke I would make. Anyway, so Locarno's really happy that Mariner's here, and he's like, "Oh yeah, you're going to join the team.
I've saved you from everyone. I didn't need saving, but everyone would be really pleased when an admiral's daughter's joined us. I haven't joined you."
I'm going to say it's not like she even leads him on to think that she's joined him. It's just all in his head completely.
It's sort of like. But I've read your files. You hate authority. Yeah, that doesn't mean... He goes, yeah, but I love what Starfleet stands for.
And that's the sort of... I've lost the word that I'm looking... The coalescence of Mariner's arc this season. So it very nicely plays in. bringing back Locarno is a good character to hold a mirror up to what Mariner's been through. And the other cool thing I think about using Locarno here, sorry, I will let you speak in a second, mate. I'm just on one. But the cool thing about using Locarno is that we know what character arc they really wanted for Locarno. They wanted him to be Tom Paris and become redeemed and become a good guy. And the fact that now, because that didn't happen, because as we explained last week, why they changed the name, blah, blah, blah. Go hit up last week's episode. Give us the views. Because of that, the Lower Decks writers can go, right, well, we don't need to do a redemptive arc for Locarno. Let's just absolutely lean into it and just make him a complete arsehole and follow that through. And I think that's great. It's a unique opportunity to do something like that. So,
and Willow agrees.
Willow's very passionate about this particular point in Parallel.
Absolutely.
Yeah, Locarno, that arsehole. Don't even get me started. I speak dog. So.
I do like, though, when he really has convinced himself Mariner is joining, to the fact that he puts on broadcaster everywhere in the galaxy. Yeah. This are joining me. It's just he's a madman. He's a
But it also plays into your point, Jim. Because what you were saying, Jim, was that it's like, he's never got past being like he was once seen as special and now he's not. Like he's just anyone else. And that plays into it. It's like, he just knows. He's read the file. He knows what she's going to do. So the second that she doesn't do exactly what he expects, it's like, but this can't be. I read the file.
And he still thinks that offering someone membership of Nova Squad Nova Fleet now is the greatest thing you can possibly bestow upon anyone. It's like, I mean, I know we don't have them in the UK, but it's kind of like these fraternities that you get, like, join my Beta Beta Meta or whatever it is, and it's like, a secret club.
To be fair, half of the British government actually were in the secret club.
Yes, but that's we really don't have time to get onto that at the moment.
Yeah, and plus we might get into a piggle about it if we go around.
Yeah, and I mean, all we have to say on that is that obviously we agree that tents should be completely banned because they are the cause of homelessness.
And any club that you have to put parts of your body inside a dead animal to join, you should not join.
No, I think that's reasonable.
You don't go the whole hog in that way.
No.
Just anybody who watches what's that mirror?
Black Mirror, the first episode of Black Mirror.
The first episode of Black Mirror. We actually had a prime minister who that was modelled off.
And just by the by, it's the first episode of the second season, but when they put it on Netflix to get the Americans in because it was new to them at the time, they put the second series first because it had the pig episode.
No, it wasn't. It was the first episode of the first season.
No, it wasn't. No, I'd watched the whole
season. It was. It was not. It was the very first one.
No, it wasn't because I watched the season.
Die on this hill.
I remember it going onto the news. Oh, you.
Yeah, right. You can look it up. We'll carry on talking about.
Google's out. This is serious.
IMDb. I've got IMDb. I'm not messing.
Right, quickly. Anyone, let's have a vote. We know there's 4 of you watching. Who thinks I'm right? And who thinks Sweet's right? I think it was the very first episode. So I remember reading an article about it. It was like this brand new series starts with. It was that one. Then it was 10 million credits, and then it was that one with that.
And then shortly after that came out, it broke that the British Prime Minister did something very similar to join the club.
Anyway, so Rutherford notices straight away.
Do we want to answer this first? Or?
We've already given you the answer.
Well, okay then. All right. Okay.
Rutherford
I might have been about to admit that I was wrong, but fuck it. If I don't have to, even better, Elliot. Thanks, man. You just cut me a solid. It must have been that the news story came out a bit after.
The news story came out after it because they showed it again.
Maybe
after.
Because I just remember it coming out. And I go like, That's so weird. And it might have just been that it came on Netflix so long after.
Yeah, it was almost as if somebody knew something had happened.
Almost. Yeah, it was just a random repeat that Channel 4 decided to do for no particular reason. They decided to rebroadcast the episode.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm wrong.
so
there you go.
Rutherford straight away notices that Locarno looks exactly like Tom Paris, but Boimler...
But no one else can see it.
Yeah.
Well, Boimler can't. And it's like it's the first time Boimler just is so casual and so like he rarely gets the really funny line, but it's like I'm just not seeing it. And he sounds so confident right from the beginning of this episode, which is really nice.
And Boimler should know, because we do know that Boimler is a huge Tom Paris fan.
Exactly.
Flexible plates.
But that's why he can't see it, because he's such a hero of his.
That's what makes it funnier, the fact that Boimler of all people should pick up on this, but doesn't.
Oh, doesn't Boimler make another joke as well? He does that, and then he goes, "Yeah, seriously, I can't see it." And then there's something else.
Yeah, he says something like they don't even look anything like each other. Or
no, but
like
there's
that.
two of those, and then there's something else someone says on the view screen. And he goes, "Oh, that's kind of ironic." He starts doing a bit of stand up almost on the front.
Oh yeah, it's he says about the Maquis because
because he goes like it's the most powerful squad. It's like, "Hello, Marquis on line 1," and it was just
I think the Marquis it's the first independent fleet.
Yeah,
I think the Marquis might have something to say about that.
Well,
usually
not anymore.
There's so many TV shows which overplay sass to the point where I just don't care. Like every character's got to be sassy, and it's like Marvel gets accused of it and can do that in some episodes. I think sometimes it gets accused when it's not. But anyway, that's another story. There's a lot of shows where they just replace character with just being sassy, but Boimler does it so rarely. To have him do it in the scene was just really sweet. It's like protocol and like historical fact are what will start him off. It's like, because it's like, well, I think the Marquis would like a word about that. That's the one time when he gets sassy, is when it comes to accurate history and facts.
Yeah, Boimler is good fun in this episode, and he gets rewarded at the end, doesn't he? Which we will get. So Mariner fights back against Nick. Meanwhile, Captain Freeman makes the speech from Star Trek, which is, "I can't ask any of you to join me on this. I'm about to disobey orders."
I've got to say, having this in Lower Decks particularly, like, we've said a lot of times during this series, it really feels like it's cut a new level. It's kind of gone into really doing that half-felt Star Trek, like nailing that all across the board. And this moment, genuinely, when I first watched it, I teared up. I just felt that kind of like, it was that history of Star Trek doing this moment and having it for the first time in Lower Decks, and it mattering so much to me. I like, when you'd shown me the first season of Lower Decks, I loved it, but it's like, I didn't think it could do this to me. It could really hit the heartstrings this hard. So it just really shows how far it's come. And having like their reactions, it was like, what was it that Shaq said something which was really funny, and then you got like, fuck yeah, from the cat doctor whose name I'm always forgetting.
Shax is just like, he's shaking with excitement about it.
He says a line which is kind of like, it reminded me of something anyway, like I should have written it down, but anyway, it was just a really lovely scene, and just it also showed like the lower decks of Starfleet aren't so quickly turned. Everyone else is, and it's just lovely.
What would be good
like
though?
How the Vulcan, what's she called? Our new Vulcan character,
T'Lyn.
T'Lyn, and she said, "I believe that this is Cerrito strong," and she's straight away with the motto of the ship.
Yeah, and that's a callback to Spock saying, "If I was human."
But that's the thing. I feel like I'm just going to be very quick on this point, because I know I made it shitload of times. But this is why, like, I think it fit her character really well. With Spock, that's questionable. We back and forth on this, but with her, it's like they've already established that she was basically kicked off the Vulcan ship for being too human or to being too emotional. So when they play it, really, really fits her character well, because that's been shown. But she can still do the logical thing and the emotional thing. Yeah, but it's from day one, it's written into a character. Sorry, 1 second, mate. From day one, it's written into a character. So for me, it really feels satisfying when she does it, and it kind of makes sense. So she can straddle that line really well. Sorry, mate. What were you saying?
I was just saying that she's only a kid still, though. She is only 60 years old. So she's going to be immature a lot.
But I would also say though, in other Vulcans, they've always shown from a young age they're taught to be very logical.
Yeah,
it's not like 60, even 20. Like they're shown how to be logical from day one, and so she is a not an anomaly, but you know what I mean. She's a renegade, so like she's a rogue Vulcan, and it's just a lovely shade. She's really good at that, and she plays it really well. When she's doing the serious Vulcan bit, she does the serious Vulcan bit, but when she does lines like this, it's great.
Yeah, she's been a really good addition to like the core characters, I think, this year. Then we've got a few different kind of subplots going on. So there's they go to Tendy's sister, and this leads to barter by combat.
I like barter by combat.
Yeah, barter by combat was fun. Yeah.
I wonder if they'd let me do that in my job.
Do you think that it's sort of like, and again, it feels like another layer which they're covering this as well, is that I feel like the reason she got why she fell out with the people at home and like their own syndicate was because she would use her brains. Like that was the way she would. She's probably very successful as a pirate, but always using her brains to do it and not using her fists. So yeah, she'd use the feathers of the Doctor in this case.
Yeah,
and I bet she found a way of doing that with everything, which really pissed the other people off because she was getting really well not playing their game. And you get the feeling that's why they're so mad at her. And that was just a really nice character trait, as well as being sexy as hell. I know you were saying, Jim, because obviously I would never sexualize a character like the sexy Tendy, as Jim would put it, the sexy Tendy.
Yeah, not at all. You need to wash all that green paint off your fingers. So I
did say I was green fingered. I didn't mean I was good at gardening.
Oh dear. We're so gonna get shut down one day. Anyway,
I'm gonna get a restraining order from Noel Wells.
Meanwhile, Mariner, I enjoy the fact that she's got the Genesis device, or GD as she christens it, as her first officer, and she's talking to it.
Yeah.
That's fun. But
in a nice ship that she's stolen, the Steam Runner class.
Yeah, and she does it by using her mum's command codes, which I thought was quite good fun.
Did you think there was a kind of, like, it was the brutish version of the NX Enterprise?
The what version?
Like a brutish block-like version.
Yeah, well,
more square.
It's one of the classes of ship that the worked on to fight the Borg, isn't it? So
it's one of the first contact ships, isn't it, from the battle?
It just reminds me a lot of the look of
visually I can see what you mean, the way the engineering sections linked to the nacelles and
it's blocky.
And she has this sort of altercation with the Ferengi, and she quotes rules of acquisition at them. Now, I looked this up. I did suspect it, but I had to look it up to be sure.
Yeah,
the Ferengi quotes rule of acquisition number 289: shoot first, count profits later.
Yeah.
Now, the last time we dealt with the rules of acquisition, there were only 285 of them.
Right.
So either there are new rules of acquisition, or this Ferengi's lying and making up a rule of acquisition to suit his purposes.
No, may I? I've got a theory, but
I would lean on that he's making it up, because that we know that Rom is the Grand Nagus at this point, and has been since we last saw them. So I don't think Rom would endorse that rule of acquisition. So I think this Ferengi's made it up.
When do we know the 285 from?
From DS9.
No, from what season?
That's deep cut.
I don't know the last time they officially give the number.
Because I'm thinking, because rules of acquisition and all that, when we got the rules originally, was quite early on. And by the time they're dealing in, the Ferengi have gone dealing in the Gamma Quadrant, etc.
Maybe.
This could have been added as a rule: shoot first, count profit later.
No, I've got two things to add to this.
When you've been into war situations.
Yeah, I suppose so. Zek could have added them during the war.
Yeah.
First of all, just for Elliot's point, there's even an episode of Next Generation where Picard and Riker are talking, and Riker goes, at the moment the Ferengi are in the middle of negotiations over the rules of acquisition, like a change to rules of acquisition. And he goes, Picard goes, they could be some time then. So that could be the exact rules they're talking about. But I've got an argument for this because the first one was really good. It was like, the boss is only good as his last profit statement or something like that.
Yeah.
Great rule of acquisition, makes sense to Ferengi. I'm going to argue this does not sound like a rule of acquisition because even after war, profit, like count your profit after your shot, like profit comes second to warfare. What I'm going to say is this: I think that rule of acquisition was an in joke. I think they're geeky Ferengis who love the Marauder Mo cartoon series, like which they've got the action figures for, which collected. And in that he jokes about a fictional rule where it's like shoot first, like the rule, and he makes up a number above the number so he can make it up. So it's like shoot first, last question late, and it's kind of his jokey rule that isn't a rule.
Maybe.
That's my own like headcanon for you.
I'll go with it, yeah.
Because I always want them to revisit the Marauder class of Ferengi. Because I always thought you could have the profit-driven ones who just profit through whatever, and the ones who profit through war. And it would have been so like they should really pick that up. It just seems.
I think there was such a disaster that they're quite happy not to revisit them.
Yeah, but wouldn't it give another flavour to the Ferengi society? So you've got one class which is like the middle class, or the. They
would do definitely.
Yeah, which makes sense. And like the ones who just like you choose your path, you choose like the profit through any means, or you do it through war. Yeah.
Have like an absolute badass Ferengi, like totally reclaim them, like have a really fierce Ferengi warrior with his electro whip and everything. Like there was a Star Wars novel where they had an Ewok bounty hunter, like, something like that. That'd be fun.
I mean, because there was the episode where they had the Magnificent Ferengi. I always thought the one which was the badass fighter, he should have been a Marauder.
He should have been, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
So they get a broken down ship from the Orions on the condition that Tendi will go back home. And this leads us sort of into the final confrontation. We do get a quick revisit of the Mark Twain gag from earlier on in the season, which was nice.
I love this. This is
it's honestly something that's going to keep coming back again and again.
Yeah,
well, I don't know. I mean, it seemed like it was set up in this series, but like I don't know. But yeah, I'd be up for it. I just loved the fact also that it was the Vulcan. Again, she showed that she's learned from being on the Cerritos. By being the one who suggested this, and it's like, sometimes the most logical result can come out of the most illogical setups or whatever she says. It's delightful, and it just so quietly says something so loud about her character as well, and how much it's grown since she's been on there.
And it does, as we said, very much become Wrath of Khan once it comes down to Mariner and Locarno chasing each other through this nebula. But we get some great additional stuff, like Boimler gets made the acting captain when they punch through the shield, and he gets another one of them little asides where he says, you hardly ever see anyone using the captain's yacht, which it's a nice intro to Trek lore. Like it's always been there in the schematics.
It's only in Insurrection, isn't it? That's the only
Insurrection we see one. Yeah,
it's the only time as far as I can think.
We should have seen the aerial wing in Voyager. There was test footage done for it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a nice little
reason they never went with it and then built the Delta Flyer. It's like you had a fucking shuttle there.
Yeah.
But then you wouldn't have got Paris creating it.
I know you wouldn't. But
and then rebuilding it again and again.
And again.
And we do get a really good hero moment from Mariner that she stands there and she's willing to put a life on the line there to stop Locarno getting to the Genesis device.
Well, she sets the Genesis device going. She goes, "This can't carry on. I'm blowing it up."
Sorry, GD.
So
she apologizes to him.
It's good to see her out and out heroic. We've always known she's a good character and a strong character, but
but this is not when she first sets the device to blow up. it isn't even with Locarno there.
No, that's it.
She's just doing this heroically on her own. Like normally when she does something heroic or that, there's an audience. She's got an audience. Somebody is there with her watching.
Yeah,
her.
you're right.
But this is her actually. No, this needs doing. This is the right thing to do, and she's doing the right thing.
And are we ready to go on to Locarno's death?
Well, yeah, we're more or less there, aren't we? Yeah.
We do have the Trinas shield from Encounter at Farpoint. I don't know how the Binars obviously need 3 of them to be able to mimic Q technology.
Yeah.
Was Q using
Binar technology, maybe.
And I love the thing. It's like, Trina. Like the Binars beat it, but they were 2 surely.
It doesn't make any sense.
It was such a lovely layered joke as well, and that was what I was going to say about Locarno's death. It's so well layered in that you've got a portable Genesis device ready set up for this. You've got the fact that the Ferengi designed it, so it's got a paywall.
Yes,
of course it does, because it's got the Ferengis. It's just lovely and set up. And also, if you think about it, right, this planet gets formed from him blowing up the ship, and it gets terraformed based on that. Now, when Spock pulls some shit with a Genesis device, all I'm saying is he got reborn on the planet.
But Spock was
whoa! Don't say it. Because I'm just going to finish my thought before you say it. Because the other thing I did think of is Spock downloaded his brain. If that's what you're going to say.
No.
Oh, sorry. Right. What I was going to say was like Spock downloaded his brain into McCoy, but we did have a Vulcan there. Is all I'm saying. Like we could have had a cut scene later. We had
the reason we got Spock come back is Spock was fired in a missile after the Genesis planet had been formed.
Yeah,
and it was still forming, so he's caught in the Matrix. That's why it brought him back to life. Locarno was blown up with the bloody thing.
But I'm just going to say, but if it depends on how the Genesis device works, which is basically open to the writers adding whatever. So it's like if you blow up his DNA into the heart of it.
That's it. It does say that his DNA is part of the planet now. So maybe we'll get a planet that forms the Nova Squadron of planets.
That's later on. Like you could have you could either have a Locarno or just a planet of Locarnos.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I was surprised there wasn't a post-credits scene this episode with some sort of nod to the search for Spock, but
basically you'd have a Rimmerworld version of Star Trek with Locarno.
Yeah, and so Robert Duncan McNeil will become the actor who's played the most different characters if he's an entire planet of Locarnos. Yeah, maybe.
There you go. Yeah, you see, I've got it.
And when the Genesis goes off, I don't know if I'm making this up. I don't think I am. I feel like they changed the animation into a matte painting to match the matte painting that they use in the Wrath of Khan.
I think
if you look at it, the animation becomes much more static for a few scenes where it shows the formation, and it looks exactly like, I presume it was a matte painting they used in Wrath of Khan. And it's just a lovely, lovely visual touch again. So... if you look, usually in the star fields, the stars are twinkling, but they're not in this particular bit where it's showing like the rings forming round it. Just look at that and look at if it was filmed on film, I would say look at the film stock. But I know it's not film stock because it's animated and it's digital, but you know what I mean. Just have a look at it. It looks not just visually, but it looks aesthetically, for want of a better description, like the sequence from Wrath of Khan.
Well, one thing I was gonna I already noticed in this episode, which your point kind of makes me think of, is the fact that even though right from the day one their work on the ship, like the Cerritos, just looks so great. It looks like if you popped it into especially now a few series in, if you popped it into a live action show, you could sort of get away, it looks that detailed. That you can get away with it. And I feel like almost it's not in a bad way, but it's you can see the sort of difference in it's almost like a real quality to the ships. Then you cut to the guys on the inside who are still these kind of larger than life cartoons, animations. And it's kind of it's a weird and wonderful kind of mix of styles because the outside looks so fake, so real.
I wonder if it's been a conscious thing with the development of how the show's ships in lower decks, as sort of like a fingers up to Discovery, how the ships have always looked crap. That they're going. You've got all this money for you to make it look amazing for Discovery. We have not had a decent ship shot, I don't think, in Discovery.
Well, you've got.
No, I don't think we have.
I was going to say it's like most ships now are generated on a computer. So the difference between a computer-generated ship for live action and one for animation, it's way within the line now. It is getting to the point where, as soon as Cerritos could just go into an episode of not Discovery, but any other Star Trek show, and not look out of place. But that's the thing, and as you say, why can't Discovery do this? I don't get it. Why can't they do any detail?
It's almost like they've got the detail, but then they turn the lights down so you can't see it.
Yeah, there were a lot of...
There
were a lot of dubious production design choices made way back at the beginning of Discovery. We're not going to have round nacelles. We're going to have bizarre Klingons. Just very odd decisions early on.
That's the thing. I feel like they've spent so much money on, like, the failed experiment with the Klingons is probably a good example. Like the design work, like the amount of money which probably went into that. Then and they had so many Klingons in those earlier series, especially the first one. You've got other things where they've gone for these really huge plot lines, which are all about. They seem more about the spectacle than the plot sometimes. Even.
Yeah,
and they've spent their money doing that as opposed to making the ships look cool and just doing really good stories. They're worried about the spectacle, not the story. Like that last story, I'm sorry, but it just didn't really make that much sense to me. Like 1 minute they can't possibly fathom the language, next minute they're talking fluently to them. It's because they spent all their money just doing these visuals other than the starships. They've got to know people who watch Star Trek probably care a little bit about the starships.
I've been seeing the focus, so I'm not going to have a go at season 4.
Join us early 2024 and we'll talk about the final season of Discovery. Anyway, so this one ends. T'Lyn decides to stay, but Tendi has to leave. And that's where we leave it. Now
I honestly think, and it goes back to what you were saying earlier with Tendi, how she's probably used the science and all that to get out of, and her brain, to get out of situations before she's joined Starfleet. But I can see they're going to want rid of her, because I can see her going back and really using the brain and trying to make it like Starfleet, going how good it is. And they're not wanting the changes and wanting rid of her.
Also, I'm wondering if she'll be so efficient at it that it'll be a threat to them. That
That's what I mean. That's what I mean. That she's going to be really efficient at doing what she wants to do. Change it to Federation style and Starfleet style, but
even without changing the rules, I feel like she could just change the way they do. Like she will do it in the most ethical way, but still achieve the ends they want, and they won't like that.
I'm just not a fan of this trope at the end of seasons, where you take one of the main characters and you remove them from the ensemble. I just feel like it's overdone.
Season now.
Well, it was
Boimler, Saxon, Freeman, and now we've got Tandy.
Yeah,
have we not had it with Mariner?
No.
That's quite funny. Ironic.
Did she leave or not? No,
she left, but it was mid-season. It wasn't. Yeah. It wasn't the end of the season.
But we've had an end of season.
But it's just one of them. You see it in all sorts of TV shows over and over, and I'm absolutely sure they'll do a great story with Tendi.
I'm binging Supernatural, and Supernatural does it pretty much every season.
Yeah, but that's usually
the guy. And there's only 2 of the main characters, really.
Yeah, but one of them dies every other season. It's pretty par for the course, Supernatural.
I'd also throw in as well, for me, right, they've had it as an on-running kind of like low hum throughout the series of having Mariner always kind of self-sabotaging stuff. This season, they've gone for it full gusto. Every episode she gets talked right round, and then at the beginning of the next episode, she's roguing it up again and again. Fine, but I think now, because they've played it so hard this season, we need that to be done.
And
like,
also, how they ended it, that she's discovered herself.
Yeah, exactly. If they reverse it now, I'd just be so. We played that out. So.
I've got quite good faith in Lower Decks that they can.
I have as well.
They can do good character development and stick with something.
Yeah, I mean, like me saying that I think they did slightly overplaying her. Like I said last week, they've overplayed her resolving it and then having the same issue again next week. However, that's like, oh God, this meal was perfect. This just one small thing. Like I probably wouldn't have put the basil on top. That's as tiny a note as it is against such a great season. However, now if they did it again next season, I might be more begrudged.
No, that's it. We need to move on now. But I have faith in the writers that they're conscious of that and they will do.
Exactly.
And speaking of moving on, we are running long already. But you know what? We've said we're going to do the Wounded. We are going to do the Wounded.
We are going to do the Wounded. I have a question going into this episode. Just for you all. Because, I put all our YouTube, all these videos into playlists as well on YouTube.
Yes.
Do you think this qualifies as a Dominion War episode?
Go on.
Because
what would be your...
Because we've got the Cardassians arming.
We have...
Cardassians arming...
Rearming.
It's a precursor...
Rearming.
It's certainly a precursor to Deep Space Nine and to the stories we get in Deep Space Nine. I would argue it's too early before they join the Dominion.
Yeah, I would argue if you,
count it.
Yeah, if you say this counts because it's a precursor to Deep Space Nine, it means every episode of Deep Space Nine, which I guess tangentially every episode is.
Yeah, but if we're including any combatants, then we can say, well, hang on, we need to include all of Enterprise because it's about the birth of the Federation, and the Federation are in the Dominion War.
No,
I know it's more obvious than that.
Tenuous.
I'm exaggerating for humorous effect.
The Cardassians have had a war, and like in this one, they're being beaten by a Nebula class. A Nebula class is a Federation science vessel.
True.
So we've got them rearming and that, and they've developed a shield technology that the Federation can't scan through, so they can be rebuilding weapons and stuff. So you've got to imagine, because by the time we get to DS9, the Galore class is on the par with the Federation ship. Yeah, they're getting beaten by a science vessel. So I wonder if this is sort of like a start of the Cardassians sort of regrouping themselves, ready to...
You know what? Start a new playlist called Dominion War with a question mark at the end.
But you'd have to add the Pegasus to that playlist because that's the first time the Federation use a cloaking device.
There
and
we
it's
go.
a transcloak.
The Dominion War playlist can include just about anything.
Yeah, it'll be every episode of Star Trek which doesn't go in the main playlist. Basically.
Yeah.
But I love the argument.
I have a clue anyway. I doubt if you'd even look to check.
Do we think the same thing happened here though? With
you broke up there, Ian. I can't. You broke up. I couldn't hear anything.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yeah. Yeah.
What I was saying was, do you think that the same thing happened to Mark Almado's earlier version of Ducat to cut out the writer's credit? Because
quite possibly.
I can think of no reason apart from the fact that, oh my God, he couldn't have shaved. Why you wouldn't have
they've just gone, we like what you did there. We don't want to pay the writer of that episode. Here's a new goal for you to play.
Felt like that. Because it was a Glyn even here, wasn't he?
And I think this is like this wasn't like this was it. This episode was Ian's pitch, and this wasn't your original pitch. But I think you're probably hitting the nail on the head there.
I thought this was the original one I pitched.
No, your original pitch for why we were doing this episode was because of the captain.
Oh, yes. Sorry. I thought you meant I pitched
no.
Yeah, yes, I see what you mean.
This wasn't part of the original pitch. That was Mark Alamo. But I think this is quite blatantly obvious. He's playing the same character as Picard.
Yeah.
And he changed his name. And it's very much the same as what's happened with...
Yeah, I mean, again, this was the
Patrick.
perfect episode for reasons I walked ass backwards into. Yeah, that's completely true, yeah.
And yeah, so I mean, it is Gul Dukat, except he's got beauties.
Oh my God, the mud shot.
And he's got a great padded suit.
He's got a great padded suit. He's got a silly ass.
It was like you ordered a Kardashian suit on Wish, or whatever it's called now. It's like it really just it's such a cheap latex version. And the thing is, I thought the makeup on the faces was so much more interesting, but like the beards and the weird helmet, which someone online the other day was defending, which God bless you. Like, if you like something, you like it. I'm not hating, but I'm like, really, I never thought I'd meet anyone who liked that.
The helmets are, you know how there's always that argument about how men's armor looks in fantasy and how women's armor looks in fantasy. That's basically the women's fantasy armor version of a helmet for the Cardassians, because that offers no, unless someone's clonking you exactly on the head where that ridge is, nothing. That does nothing for you.
Actually, now you say that makes perfect sense. Why do you have a helmet like that? Because they have huge bone ridges that'll be protected from being hit, but nothing in the middle. So
there you go. So that's the you're right.
It actually covers where they haven't got massive bone protection.
It's practical.
That's exactly. I did think of that at the time, but it's like, I mean, it just looks ridiculous. But it's like,
it does look stupid.
It reminds me a bit of like actually what you're saying there, Eddie. It reminds me of during one of the wars in America, they were the planes which came back. They were studying to see where it got hit to develop.
That was Second World War.
And then someone said, don't say the punchline. Come on, don't steal it from me. Then what someone said was, no, what we need to do is recover some planes which went down because we need to see where they hit.
No, that's wrong.
Well, that was told by a historian.
What they were doing, you almost got it right. What they were doing was they were looking at where they were getting hit.
Yeah.
And they were saying that's where we should armor. And they went, no, look at the planes all these planes have come back that have been hit here. All the others haven't come back, so we armor where they haven't been.
No,
hit.
It was definitely not that. The story I had was again, it was told on Penn Sunday School. Penn told to a historian, sorry.
I feel like you're both telling the same story here, but somehow arguing with each other.
There was some which went down in recoverable areas, and they brought them back, and they learned from those. No. Elliot's point is that they learned from ones which survived, like the better classes.
It's the same thing that you're looking at what there was. The first thought was you look at where they're being hit, and that's where you armor, and that's what they're off to do. And then it was punched out. No, they've survived when they hit there. What you do is you armor the other parts of the plane because the other planes haven't come back.
But apparently they recovered some. Sorry, I do see what you mean. Yeah, so we are seeing the point. But apparently they recovered some planes which were in recoverable areas. So they got into their airspace in an area they could get them, apparently.
So there we go.
I just thought, I mean, I do see why they later, though, back to my original point, I see why they later on made them more visually appealing when you're going to see these characters week in, week out. So you make them white, you make them look a bit more pretty, basically, because it would be a lot to look at that every week.
And don't put stupid hats on them.
I'm not even making a point about that, but the makeup, seeing the detail, it was a wonderful makeup job. Whoever did, probably Michael Westmore, the job they did on that makeup just looked beautiful, but I understand why it isn't practical for a week in, week out.
This is only a year before DS9 started.
Yeah, and a lot of it survived.
In fact, 6 months. So
the concept is there. The concept's solid.
Yeah, they
the
just
basic design is solid. It just got refined.
They just basically lost a bit of detail on because you could almost see veins and stuff like that and cracks in the face.
To be fair, I just thought of something there because I realised the time difference. It's only 6 months. It now makes sense. a Nebula class was blowing up warships. And it makes sense now, does the first episode, that they were worried because a runabout could tow them about.
Yeah, true.
And it makes sense now.
You're right. So yeah, the basic gist of the plot then is we've got a captain who appears to have gone off on his own little crusade attacking the Cardassians. And it brings up all this stuff, like we find out O'Brien served with him. So it's the first time we bring in this idea that O'Brien has fought against the Cardassians. And the way it's presented here, it is quite interesting because that becomes quite a defining characteristic of O'Brien in Deep Space Nine.
And when you realise, when you think about it, this is only 6 months before DS9 started.
Yeah, but
they're obviously doing character building ready for DS9 at this point.
Like the way that he plays it, like he says to Keiko, "Oh, I'm not bothered. The war's over. I don't have an issue with the Cardassians." But his actions in the rest of the episode, like when he says to the guy, "I'll do what Captain Picard tells me, but who I choose to socialize with is my own business."
I want to talk
it's
a bit
clear
about
that he doesn't. He's not okay with the Cardassians,
Because I never thought about that bit which Elliot's saying, like that it was built in ready for Deep Space Nine, which like obviously it is now you say it, but just something that never occurred to me. I just love the fact that they have 2 things I have to bring up. First of all, actually, let's go on to the point you were making, and then I'll go into the other one. First of all, I do love the fact that it's almost like, and when he's talking about his hatred for the Castian, he goes into, well, say someone, like that's a classic, like, well, my friend's got this problem with erectile dysfunction. I don't, it's kind of like that kind of thing. He goes like, say someone was really anti-Kardashian, that would make no sense now the war's over, wouldn't it? And it's like he's asking for advice without admitting it's him, which is kind of just lovely note because we've all at one stage or another done that, a friend of mine kind of thing. But to me, though, can we just talk about the food as well? Because he is so right about hearty Irish food. But do you see that fucking slop? No self-respecting Irish mother.
No. Did you
look at the dish? I'm not saying about potato casserole. I'm saying look at that fucking dish. That looked disgusting. No Irish mother would ever.
I'm not being funny.
Southern.
I was actually thinking about this, and there's some lovely Irish dishes. And he's trying to impress Keiko with how good Irish food is. And he's talked about his mum cooking all these meat dishes and everything. And he gives you potato casserole.
Yeah.
Why not give us something with lamb or...
I mean, all fairness...
a nice Irish stew or something.
In all fairness, following the famine, showing off with potatoes is an Irish custom, obviously. But and I'm allowed to say I'm half Irish. Apparently that's an excuse. Anyway, but like I it was just seeing the slop which he puts out. It's like, no way. Like I've sampled food in Northern and Southern Ireland. It is all delicious. It all looks great. Just straight away, you could just do a fry up with all like a full Irish, if you will. And it just knocks the socks off anything also, we do in this country.
While we're at it, that shite that Keiko's serving up at the beginning as well, I don't like look at that either.
I was going to say, I can't go on any empirical evidence of my own, but I've never heard of the... sorry, I'm going to show some ignorance here. Is she Japanese or Chinese?
Japanese.
I wanted to make sure I got that right. I thought it was, but... I've never heard of in Japanese culture them serving sort of algae and stuff which gets fed.
No, because they're just bloody making it up.
I've not heard of this before.
We know that Star Trek does not have a good food consultant because they do not know what any food is.
Well, let's face it, consultants about specific cultures within the planet, because
indeed.
Shall we say about their Indian consulting?
No, they proved time and time again. Anytime Riker cooks, either Riker has no idea what food is, and he's making it up himself, or Paramount has a food consultant who doesn't know what food is. An omelette is not scrambled egg.
It's not.
A pizza does not take what was it, 8 hours to cook in the oven?
Something like that.
Pizza
yeah.
takes about 10 minutes at max, 10,
Yeah.
12 minutes.
Look, as I learned from Star Trek, as the Native Americans say, shalom. We just have to move on.
Absolutely, we do. So there is some good back and forth with Gulnasset, who is just Gul Dukat. Like the way he talks and everything. And you can tell.
You can see straight away why they got him back to be back.
Yeah,
Gul Dukat.
you can tell he's up to something. Just the way he's, give me the prefix code. Go on, give me the prefix code. And Picard's like, no, I'm not going to give you the prefix code. Go on, this prefix code.
You know, it's also he's got this really funny. This little thing to his voice. It sounds a bit different here. Like
Picard.
Sorry, I want to say Dukat. Mark.
Macalemo. Yeah, it's because he's not playing Gul Dukat. It's a totally different character, and
but I feel like it's more of a. There's something weird. He is putting an intonation into the way he talks.
It does make you wonder if he knew the audition was coming up for Gul Dukat. And he wanted to go for it. And he got this part and he thought, here, I can audition for this Gul Dukat Cardassian captain now as well. I can get 2 shots at it.
I mean, to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if after watching him in this one, they just thought, right, we want that again. Let's create this role of Gul Dukat. Because he nails it. He is just Gul Dukat. There's no point.
It'd be interesting to ask him if this was sort of meant to be Gul Dukat and they couldn't use the same name, so changing naming DS9 because they couldn't, for the same reasons as Locarno. They didn't want to
highlight it. Now you highlight the short time between the two. It does make sense,
So let's talk about Captain Maxwell then, because this guy is in everything. Look at his filmography, this actor. I knew him from 24, where he's the president's aide in the last few seasons. That's where I most knew him from, but he was in the Shawshank Redemption. He's guest starred on every TV show under the sun.
He's so good in this.
Yeah, he is. He's brilliant. He always plays a bureaucrat of some discreet, which is ironic because he has a go at Captain Picard for being a bureaucrat.
No, I mean, I love the fact that he just comes in. It's it is kind of weirdly Trump-esque, not in a direct way, but it's the whole thing of he is facing a massive, I mean, not trial in this case, but, we could use a trial as a metaphor. I don't know how we'd get there from Donald Trump. But anyway, he is there. He's he's in the shit. He needs to explain himself. And straight away when he beams over, it's like he's Mr. Charisma. He's like, hey, man, how you doing? He's playing up for the cameras effectively. He is. He's charming on O'Brien, which, if you want to get cynical about it, I think he genuinely does care about O'Brien, and he does, it's sincere in one hand, but I don't think it maybe has escaped his fractured brain at this stage that probably charming up to the one person who's on your side isn't a bad thing.
That's it.
And he's aware of it.
He's like, hey, up me old mucker O'Brien. He almost gives him one of them on the head, there he is. Yeah.
It's so nice that the way they have the in on him even before you see him is O'Brien starting to sing that song from Rutledge, or does he sing it after him?
He sings it. He's humming it before he gives Keiko the shite food.
Yeah, so I think it's before. Oh no. So actually, yeah. So he said that Keiko serves him food. I think he meet him, and then he does the song after he's met him when he's serving the food. Yeah.
Yeah, he said. I don't think it's after he's met him, but he's like, I think it's all this stuff about Captain Maxwell.
Let's go back to the food a second. Now that
must we?
No, because now he's humming his war song, and we know how much O'Brien loves rations. He's made Keiko Starfleet potato casserole.
There
rations.
you go. That explains it.
Well, I just like to throw in though, he loves them, but he hates them in other episodes. It depends on which episode you watch. They're
Now,
really
while-
inconsistent on that one.
Yeah, but
While
I think this works here. Why it looks like slop, because he's singing a war song to Keiko as he's presenting this meal. He's made a Starfleet potato casserole rations.
Yeah,
He's
and
got
that would
to
explain why it
replicate.
looks so shy.
He's got replicator.
It's like one of
I'm
these.
impressing my wife. I'm doing a potato casserole in the stupidest dish to present it in, but I want it in 1840 ration style.
It's like these adverts you get. Like I do have Huel as a meal replacement. If Huel want to sponsor us, yeah, we'd be happy with that. But I get the shake one, which is nice. But every so often this advert comes up and it's like, oh, Huel hot and savoury, and it still comes in a powder. And you look at the advert and it's like, he goes, oh, you just put 2 scoops of this in and then fill it up from your kettle. And he's there and he's got perfect mac and cheese. And I'm like, I'm not being funny, but I'll fucking show my ass in co-op window if that actually comes out like that when you eat it. And then rest of it on the advert is he goes, oh, I never have time for a proper lunch. And ever since I've been using Huel. What do you mean ever since? You said you never have time for that, so you've not put a time. Anyway, so that just annoyed me grammatically. But then he goes, so it's this works out at £1.25 per meal, which is much better than spending £500 a month on takeaways. The fuck? What sort of job have you got, mate, if you're spending £500 a month on takeaways? Like, don't come to me with, oh, I ain't got time for lunch. I'm spending £500 on takeaways. Well, I'm sorry. I cannot relate to this man who spends £500. Like, you are not appealing to the common man with this advertising campaign, Huel. I'm sorry. No. So that can get in the bin. But
that's obviously.
Whereas the salted caramel flavour shake, very nice.
I imagine that's aimed at the American market, and they've changed pounds for dollars without changing the script, because a lot of the Americans will order takeaway for every meal.
Maybe, but I mean,
delivered at lunch and stuff.
If you can afford £500 a month for takeaways while you're at work on your dinner, don't come crying to me because you ain't got time. Get your maid to do it. Arsehole. Anyway, back to Star Trek. Then I don't think Huel are going to sponsor us, are they? After
why?
that,
Why do you think they'd be put off?
I've no idea.
They might want us to write the next advert to make it.
They might. I could write better than that one. Anyway, so yeah, Picard and Max O'Brien. While we're having a go at O'Brien, he is such a sycophant.
I was going to say, we're having a go at O'Brien. Okay, what's your thing? I love O'Brien. He
is a complete sycophant. In this episode, he goes to Picard. Well, I've had the honour of serving with the 2 best captains in the fleet. And then there's an episode of DS9 when Worf first comes onto it and he goes, oh, you look good in red. You couldn't ask for a better commander. Like, whoever he's serving under, you're the best captain ever, sir.
Now, a bit brown-nosing to get ahead, I will forgive O'Brien for everything.
Don't get ahead, though, does he? Still bloody...
to get behind. But the funniest thing was, he says that, and Picard gives the smallest of small, like, acknowledging kind of half smiles, and then just gets on with it. Like, he completely ignores it, which is kind of funny. Yeah,
Picard's just like, oh, shut up, O'Brien. I heard you saying it to Geordie this morning. Oh, you're the best engineer in the fleet, Geordie. I bet they all laugh about him when he's not there. Anyway.
Can we stick with that scene? Because the response from Picard, when O'Brien does let his kind of, his, how do I put it? I want to say outright racist views, but kind of like racist adjacent views on Kardashians. It's when Picard just so lightly says it's like, just seems really easier to hate, and it's really hard. One day you wake up and you realize it's impossible to stop hating. And it's just such a lovely speech, but he doesn't overplay it. And he goes, Anyway, like, you know, basically goes, anyway, have a great day. See you later. You know, he does it so lightly and so kind of friendly. It kind of made me think of everything we're missing in the debate about anything these days. Like, there's no nuance, there's no kindness, there's no empathy. Whereas Picard gets, this guy's been at war. This guy lost people. He was at like what they know as the Settlers 3 massacre.
Yeah.
So he's not going to like treat him like he's a dick for.
No, and that's the thing. And Picard, I mean, in my opinion, Picard gives him too much of an easy ride to begin with. He's like, he says, like, I'll let you keep your command. I'll let you come in. I don't want to put you in the brig. And then it's like, what's he's only fucked off. He's only gone. It's like, well, maybe you should have seen that coming.
Yeah, that shows you how much Federation trust Federation.
Yeah, it does. That's Picard being nice to a fault, unfortunately.
And that's Picard at this point can't mention the Federation officer when he's told an order like this. In that situation, will still rebel.
Because it's the reverse. Oh my God, there's so many layers why this is a perfect partner episode. Because in the other episode, it's the reverse. The other guy can't conceive that Mariner would be so loyal to the Federation. So this is another reason why this.
There you go.
I totally thought of it.
Exactly.
But it also kind of, it's the way it's all kind of it's structured this episode. So you've got the scene before when O'Brien's in the Turbolift, the guy instantly asks him out for a drink and he gets so shitty. And you know O'Brien, even though he's been a sort of background character, you've seen him kind of come to the fore a few times. That's, I think, why he was one who's picked to progress into Deep Space Nine. And Blas Colmini, obviously a fantastic actor, but
that's it. He has a presence regardless of what he's doing.
But you know, previously he was just such an avuncular character. You know, you liked him. He was like your. It sort of reminded me, funnily enough, it actually does make me, the O'Brien character sometimes makes me think of my family over in Ireland, because it's not like any of them had any background from the Troubles or anything, but like they were all people I just knew to be builders and this, that, and the other. And then I think about it, it's like, well, they lived with the Trouble. What must have happened to them? What must they have not necessarily been involved with, but had to deal with from that? Like, what side of them, not a malice side, but, you know, what things they went through must I never have known about them, will never know about them. And it's that thing of like, yeah, O'Brien is just such an avuncular, nice guy, but then you see there's this whole other side to him where he's seen war, where he's got these kind of scars from it, where he can't even face a Kardashian invite him out for a drink without getting shitty to him, because he's got this other life you never knew about. And I just kind of really gel with that. And then later on, where he just gives that speech where it's like, I don't hate you, Kardashian, I hate what I became because of you. And it gets me.
Yeah, that's brilliant.
And it's sort of like, I wonder if for him the Troubles ever came into his mind when he thought about this. I don't know.
Yeah, I would perhaps imagine so. And I think, to Elliot's point earlier, this does show that they were planning DS9 at this stage, because you don't give an incidental character this much backstory.
Until what's going to be one of your main characters in your new show. Well, main species in your new show.
How far before this, though, was Data's Day? Because they showed their marriage, which is probably the one which got him noticed to then want them to progress him.
I'm not sure, because this is season 4, episode 12.
Yeah, this was straight after Data's Day.
So they might have alreed been doing it. Okay.
So it's not long after Data's Day.
It's literally the episode.
And DS9 started between season 5 and season 6, didn't it?
Yeah, because I was thinking it's like maybe Data's Day, if it was a season before, it might have been what.
Because this is the reason.
But obviously not. Obviously,
this is the reason I often overlook this episode, because I had the Data's Head VHS box set, which had Data's Day on it. So I never bought the TNG VHS with Data's Day on it, which had the Wounded after it.
Right.
So the Wounded I've seen a lot less than many TNG episodes. But I think it's a fantastic episode, and it despite the makeup being slightly different and the outfits being radically different, the core of who the Cardassians are is spot on.
They've obviously been looking at wanting to do something with outfits, and these outfits almost look like they were a rush job. Or,
yes, they do.
Or that DS9 at this point would have been well into pre-production. So they maybe already knew what the Kardashians wanted to look like, but they didn't want to premiere them in a news show, in another show. They wanted to save that. So they've gone, it's Kardashians. We want to introduce Kardashians in something, do this and that. But they didn't want to let the costumes that they designed for the Kardashians for DS9 be shown yet.
Maybe not. I mean,
guess, they look so similar. My guess is that these were the first kind of attempt, but then when they saw them on the screen, they saw how they could do them better, which quite frequently happens because it's like in the pilot. Odo's makeup's a lot different from the main series. Like they progress it, and I think it's more that case. They saw on screen, they were going, "Oh, that looks a bit rubbery and a bit crap. How can we emboss that and make it look better?"
I'm gonna give a deep cut to all the wrestling fans out here now, but this Cardassian outfit is the equivalent of Shawn Michaels' tights in the first Eliminator Chamber match. And trust me, the people who get that joke are like, that's a good joke. Speaking of which, check out the Magic of Wrestling podcast this Saturday, which I will be appearing on to debate certain things about wrestling. So check that out. Anyway, well, I'm going to put that down. Actually, I'll make that can be one of my things. No, actually, there's no debate about them.
If you can make the opposite joke on the wrestling podcast, then come on.
Okay, yeah. If Shawn Michaels' tights come up, I will make that exact.
Oh no! Not if they come up. You've got.
I have to steer the conversation round to it. Okay, yeah. I've thought of how to do it.
There's a drink on this.
Okay, I've thought of how to do it. That's fine. Anyway, so yeah, we'll sort of wrap up. What I like is go on, Elliot.
I think it's really important that all the way through, we don't see it proved that the Kardashians were smuggling weapons. But it's heavily inferred that, Ben was right. What he said.
Oh, yeah. That's what I was going to say. I think that's a great sting. Yeah. The Cardassians were up to something. He was absolutely right. But Picard's in that situation where he's like, the peace is more important.
Oh, not even the peace.
Than exposing them at the moment.
And you haven't got any proof.
I don't think it's even about the peace. I think it is about, like, this isn't the way you can't just go rogue and kill a load of people.
Yeah.
Even if the Kardashians are playing us wrong, we can't stoop to their level because we're the Federation. That seemed really important to it. Yeah. And I just thought that last scene of when O'Brien beams on board, and to Elliot's point again, now I'm thinking about it in these terms, they set up the fact that O'Brien's a tech genius. So like he works out that there's a third of it, like a nanosecond every 3.5
that's
minutes.
good.
Every 5 minutes,
5 minutes in.
5 minutes, 15 seconds. There's a fifth of a second. There's a fifth of a second.
No, I think it's even less. It might be a fifth of a nanosecond. Yeah. Like it might.
It's something ridiculous. Yeah. As the phasing shifts,
it's good. It's good fun how surprised Maxwell looks to see him when he walks into his ready room. He's like, "Ooh!"
No, but the thing, actually, this I thought was a really good sign that he had mentally cracked, because when he hears the door chimes, he goes, "Come!" He's on the ship on his own, so he's had some sort of mental break. The fact that he's not questioning the fact the door chime just went when he's on the ship on his own, and if anyone shows up, he's in the ship.
No, he doesn't even think of that. Not on the ship on his own. Because at the end, it's turned over to his first officer.
Scratch that, because I thought that, and then I did realize that last night, and I've obviously just forgotten. Anyway, let's ignore that point. When he comes on, and like you say, he's surprised, but it's just that moment between them where it's just them, and it's like,
and I like how
he's really wanting O'Brien to see why he's right, and then it's just that moment when they sit down, they sing the song together. And just there's a beat, and he goes, "We're going to win this, am I, Chief?" And it's just that line.
Yeah.
breaks my heart in all the right places. It's just that's why I love this.
It's like O'Brien went over because he knows him so well, and he knows what he's going to do. But he also knows Picard, and he just goes, "Look, Picard will stop you."
Yeah. Although
he's not. This is not a bluff. He will stop you.
It's when O'Brien comes back and, like, in front of Proto Ducat, he goes, "It's like, hey, just went on the record. We're still a good guy." And it's like Picard goes, "Yeah, sure." And it's like, I know what Picard says after that, but still, he has just killed hundreds of Kardashians. I still don't think you say in front of the guy from the Kardashians, you don't go, "Hey, but he was a good guy." "Yeah, good point. Anyway, I'll just deal with this joker and I'll be right back with you." It's like, that still seems insensitive, even if they.
Yeah, you're right.
Well.
It's
not the most Starfleet thing you'd ever do.
But if we could put this as being the same character as the cat, which I think really it is, it fully deserved that sort of thing in front of him.
But if
what we know about the cat,
but this is like getting Hitler when he was a painter. Like, I'm sure he did some shady shit, but he hasn't become Hitler yet. Like, at this stage, Ducat, as basically his government, which he's, I think, largely aware of, has done this thing. Like, he's played his part, but it's like, still, I just still don't think you go, "Yeah, that guy who killed hundreds of your guys, good guy," and Picard going, "Okay." That's Picard basically going, "Yeah, it's fine that he killed all those people." I think that's still not.
Yeah, it's not good. It's Picard would have to be like, "Look, I'm really sorry. He's good mates with him. Sorry about that. But now I'll bollock you. Like, we'll be watching you, Gul Dukat."
Well, it does. It goes
on CBS next season, Deep Space Nine.
And Picard goes to him. I believe if I had beamed over there to check on the ship, we'd be doing something very differently.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, and he had no answer to it.
Yeah,
because he knows that there would be.
Again, it's a trifling point. I just think, just if you're going really true to the character of Picard, he's going, it's like, O'Brien, that's not appropriate. Like, or I don't think you'd have that conversation in front of him. Even if the guy is on the side of wrong, then that just pulls Picard. Like it. I mean,
it's not. You're right.
Absolutist Federation, whereas Deep Space Nine, you could have that ambiguity more. Next Generation has to be by the book because that's how they've always sold those characters.
Yeah, you're right. But no, really good episode, and one that I will make a point of revisiting more often because it is one that I've not seen too many times.
Oh, it's one of my favorites. Yeah,
and it's one then when you realise how close it was to DS9, just see that it was just saying it all up.
Absolutely. But yeah, we've run very long, so we'll wrap up there. Next time, are we going back to the Dominion War?
Long. We've given you bonus, like feature length, omnibus.
Normally you get 20 seconds after the episode ends bonus. This week you've had 20 minutes before it ends.
There you go, yeah.
So
and like, you don't want to rush an episode like The Wounded. Fair enough. Let's face it, first duty 20 minutes was like 15 minutes, however long it was fine. You can't rush an episode like this.
But also, we had a lot to say about Lower Decks.
We did.
Because it was such a good episode. So sometimes our episodes are a bit longer when they need to be.
What I meant was last week, I think we did about 45 minutes on Lower Decks and then 15 minutes on First Duty, which again seemed about commensurate, to be honest with you. Whereas with something like The Wounded,
there's a lot of nuances.
There is.
And more links than we even realised going into this episode between it and the Lower Decks.
So we'll be back next time, back to the Dominion War, where we'll catch up with actual Gul Dukat.
God, it's actually back to the Dominion War. God, we'll be done with this by 2030 at this rate.
We will. It's crazy.
How long have we got till New Trek?
Next year, which is only about 8 weeks. So
it's fucking mid-November, isn't it?
It is.
I've got a bit of a pitch. I'm on doing a special episode during December. I've got an idea.
Oh, okay. So we're at RetrekPod on Twitter or X or whatever it's called. We're retrekpod@gmail.com. You can find us on all the socials, including Retrek Model Studios on YouTube, where I believe Elliot's on the cusp of starting a new project.
Yeah, well, since we last did an episode of Retrek, I've put 3 videos out on Retrek Model Studios. So I revealed what's going to be the next build, which is a Baby from Supernatural. And I've put 2 videos out of the Flying Sub, and that should finish possibly this weekend, early next week.
Awesome. I've got Kingy's Toy Box on YouTube, where we've finally caught up with the latest issues of Dungeons and Dragons Adventurer. And Dr. Squee, what have we got going on the Dr. Squee show?
Well, the last one I've just done was with the director Chad Ferrin from the film Pig Killer, which stars Jake Busey. It is a really great film. Genuinely, it's like an independent film. It's got it's based on a true story where a guy actually cut up women and fed it to his pig, and it is Jake Busey.
Pigs again.
Jake Busey used, it's the pigling. Jake Busey genuinely used it as best because I think he's a very powerful, like his dad, he's a very powerful ingredient, but when used right, he is actually, I think, got some really great acting chops, and he gets to be really funny. And some scenes in this film, you've got some people just being hilariously funny, and he's haunted by his childhood where he's on this pig farm and his parents are torturing him. And it's just so funny because he's like looking psychologically tortured, and these other people are arguing over just the most mundane shit. Anyway, I'd recommend it. But I haven't got anything set up for this week yet. So just tune in Tuesday, sw20radio.co.uk, 7 to 8, Dr. Squee Show, or check us out on drsquee.com, where you can find my interview with Chad Ferrin about Pig Killer.
And thanks for trekking with us this time. We will see you next time on the Retrek.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Drag off, LLAB!
Fascinating.
Just before we cut quickly, like Facebook user, shots fired, 24 sucks, and that's because Low Decks is better than Deep Space Nine. Wow, Facebook user, you're just fucking with people right now.
I mean, we adore every single one of our listeners / viewers, but there's certain things that are just objectively wrong.
And 24 sucking definitely is. Low Decks and Deep Space Nine, we love all.
I mean, if it said specifically parts of 24 season 6 sucked, yes, they did. But the rest of it, or Tony's little beard in season 1 sucked. Anyway.
I mean, season 1, he was finding his beard look.